Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho, coming live on the first day of July, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. By Friday, July 4, Justice Secretary Boying Remulla plans to have filed this application for Ombudsman with the Judicial and Bar Council. Remulla has confirmed his aspiration for the position, stating he believes he has more to offer the nation through public service. Veteran lawyer Lorna Capunan has offered her services to the House prosecution team for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte, where she will assist in presenting documentary and testimonial evidence to the senator judges. Let's discuss this later on in the program. And for another 5 years, Signal TV will remain the official broadcaster of the UAAP with a newly extended partnership agreement covering seasons 89 to 93. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, minimum wage earners in Metro Manila are set to receive a 50 peso daily increase starting July 18. Here is the full report.
Starting July 18, workers in Metro Manila will receive a 50 peso increase in their daily wage. According to the Department of Labor and Employment, the daily minimum wage for the non-agriculture sector will rise from 645 pesos to 695 pesos, while those in the agriculture sector will see their wages increase from 608 pesos to 658 pesos. This adjustment translates to an additional 1,100 to 1,300 pesos per month. The wage hike drew mixed reactions from workers, with some expressing disappointment and others saying it's still better than nothing.
Kaya may dagdag yan, hindi naman natutupad eh. Hindi na ako naniniwala dyan.
Hindi, dagdag sahod na-approve na siya.
Na-approve na, ibinibigay ba?
Okay na po yun. Para malaking bagay na rin po yun. Kasi mahal na rin po yung mga gastusin ngayon eh.
The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines party list was quick to criticize the move, saying the 50 peso increase is just a quarter of the proposed 200 peso wage hike. They also noted it's even lower than the Senate's earlier proposal of a 100 peso increase, which was supported by several agencies under the Marcos administration. Recall that the Senate and the House of Representatives failed to reach a consensus on the final wage hike amount during the 19th Congress. In response, the TUCP has refiled the 200 peso wage hike bill in the new legislative session. Meanwhile, representatives from ACT Teachers and Kabataan party lists have filed a combo bill proposing a 1,200 peso daily minimum wage alongside a lower prices bill aimed at removing taxes on basic necessities.
Yung nakabubuhay na sahod na 1,200 pesos a day, ito yung kailangan ng isang pamilya para mabuhay ng disente.
May katambal naman na presyo ibaba bill, no, yung nagtatanggal ng mga buwis sa mga basic necessities, yung mga kinakailangan pa ng mga mahihirap na mga Pilipino para sa araw-araw na paggampan ng kanilang buhay.
For progressive labor groups, the current wage adjustment is an insult to workers' dignity. They vowed to raise the issue during President Marcos's upcoming State of the Nation address.
A lawmaker has filed a bill seeking 1,000 peso monthly allowance for all students nationwide from kindergarten to college. The proposal comes from first-time Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Legarda Leviste, son of Senator Loren Legarda. Leviste says over 27 million students could benefit from a direct cash transfer program, whether in public or private schools. He argues the government should prioritize educational support even if it requires borrowing funds. Leviste calls the plan a, quote, worthwhile investment, stressing that students today will be the taxpayers of tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Senate has expressed openness to making the Bicameral Conference Committee deliberations more transparent. This follows House Speaker Martin Romualdez' call to open these sessions to the public in a bid to institutionalize a more accountable budget process. In an interview on One News Storycon, former Finance Undersecretary Cielo Magno noted that BICAM meetings often involve sensitive discussions, including possible horse trading that usually happen behind closed doors. She stressed the need for public access to detailed records of these meetings, noting that BICAM sessions play a vital role in reconciling conflicting versions of the budget passed by the House and the Senate. And to further discuss the matter, we are joined this morning by former Finance Undersecretary Cielo Magno. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Gretchen. Good morning to all your listeners.
Ganda ng set mo. Oo, kahapon ko pa napansin yan. Okay, before we go into the BICAM Conference Committee hearings, I want to first get your thoughts on the proposal of Congressman Leandro Leviste. He is proposing a 1,000 peso allowance for all, I believe, 27 million students. Because this would be a worthwhile investment. Pero ang tanong niya dun sa video niya, sa interview niya, is saan kukunin yung pondo? What are your thoughts on that?
That's always the problem, no? For me, I don't have a question with respect to spending more on education, but we also have to be more rational in terms of targeting the recipient of this money. Because, for example, an additional 1,000 peso allowance for a very poor student will not make a significant difference in terms of the needs that the student need to fill when they are studying. So I think this proposal has to be socialized. We have to identify the students who are really in need and identify the amount of money that they need for support. So it should not be and cannot be a 1,000 peso allowance for all students, because some students can afford to go to college and their parents can afford to sustain the expenses that they incur while studying. So I think we have to be very careful in terms of populist proposals. So this one is a very populist proposal because it just, gives 1,000 peso allowance to all students. So I agree, we need to give allowance, but especially to those students in need, especially in this situation where the government has significant budget deficit.
And nabawasan pa yung education, ano?
Yes. We need
Pero,
to prioritize
oo.
education, especially the primary and secondary. We need to spend more the infrastructure, teachers' allowance, etc., etc.
Pero kung may ganitong proposal, saan kaya kukuha ng budget? I mean, ngayon na naaprubahan na yung GAA, saan kukunin to possibly when it comes to, finding sources of funds?
Yeah, actually, at the local government level, we have taxes that are specifically earmarked for education. So the national government and local government should have a conversation in terms of aligning the money that's available at the local government level and maybe talk about prioritizing specific needs of students. So it's not just monthly allowance, but really surveying at the local level what can local governments provide to students so that they can be encouraged to stay in school. Food. Some students go to school hungry, which affects their learning ability. Some students need the assistance, especially preschoolers, so that they can go to school and support their mental, physical, social development. So it will be good for national government to actually have a conversation and expand the role of local governments in providing assistance to our education sector.
Let's go now to the budget. Now, this budget issue has drowned alongside the impeachment proceedings and also the Duterte arrest. So it's good that you are propping this up. The House Speaker has been one of those at the center of the budget talk, and he himself has said that he is open to making the bicameral conference more transparent for the public. But you also voiced concern regarding the horse trading. Are you for it? Or are you for a more conservative type of transparency?
Yeah, actually, before the speaker responded, our group, me personally, posted a hashtag online, the Open BICAM Call. And we have been demanding government to make sure that the bicameral conference committee meetings, not just the budget, but all bicameral conference committee meetings of government when they're finalizing laws should be public. But what we mean by public is not just, it already happened. They can claim that they did it in the 2025 BICAM budget, no? When they allowed media and the civil society to witness the opening of a bicameral conference committee meeting. But then, when the horse trading, when the discussion, when the finalization of the BICAM document happened, no one knew who participated, who suggested what, no? So there's really no genuine transparency there. We appreciate the response of Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate and their commitment to transparency and accountability. It's easy to say that. It's harder to make it a reality. So we have very, very specific calls. When we say open BICAM, what does that mean? We mean that all bicameral conference committee meetings of all proposed laws should be live streamed so people can watch it from their home. Number two, it should be open to the media and the civil society so that they can directly observe what's going on. All decisions should be made within that bicameral conference committee meeting, because what we've observed before, especially in the 2025 budget, is that some of the details were ironed out by subcommittee working groups. So there is the BICAM there. And then I think what is very important are access to documents. So one, there has to be a comprehensive minutes of the meeting so we know who among the congressmen, senators suggested the ideas to be included in the BICAM and how they reconciled the provisions. And I think, lastly, a very important document is a matrix comparing the version of the House and the version of the Senate and what the final version would be after the BICAM meeting. Because the purpose of the BICAM is really just to reconcile the difference between the House and the Senate version. But most of the time, we can see a situation where new provisions are inserted in the BICAM, which were not discussed during committee meetings. An example of this in the budget, a 2025 budget, is the insertion of a 200 billion peso additional fund for the DPWH. That was never discussed in committee meetings, but it was inserted in the bicameral committee meeting. But we don't know who suggested that brilliant, quote-unquote, idea. Diba? So that's why there has to be, if we're talking of real accountability, there has to be minutes so we can check who's a congressman or senator responsible for the content of the BICAM and the matrix comparing the difference between the House and the Senate version and how they resolved it. I think this is what we call a genuine open BICAM, and these processes, the steps we mentioned, should be reflected in the House rules of both the House of Representatives and the Senate.
So sa ngayon, walang record at all that is available to the public. For the
Wala.
longest time that this has been happening. And a BICAM happens every time there is a bill that is passed in the House at the Senate. So each time, no, wala talagang record at all. Can you help us understand how the horse trading goes in the BICAM?
I'll give you an example because, you know, I've been an advocate of better regulation of the mining sector for a long time. So I have been monitoring policies related to mining. So this one is not related to the budget, but I want to give a concrete example of how it happened. So during the train law in 2017, there is this provision that the senators decided to include. They said, because, you know, in the mining sector, especially in the coal mining sector, coal mining companies do not pay taxes except for income tax. So other companies, for example, yung mga metallic mining like nickel, they pay excise tax. Coal companies are exempted. So in the train law, the senator said specifically that they should start paying excise tax. 2018, they have to pay 50 pesos excise tax per metric ton. 2019, they have to pay 100 pesos. And then beginning 2020, it will become 150 pesos per metric ton. So they should start paying. Okay? And if Semirara Mining Company started paying those taxes, they should have paid 12.7 billion pesos already since 2018. But you know what happened in the Bicameral Conference Committee? Because for this provision to be operationalized, you have to repeal an old law, Presidential Decree 972. And in proposed laws, there's this section, the repealing clause, which specifically says we are repealing PD 972. In the Bicameral Conference Committee, it disappeared, the repealing clause. And because there's no repealing clause, even if there's a provision for them to pay taxes, Semirara Mining Companies now arguing, oh, PD 972 was not repealed. So they're still not paying taxes. And it's because someone suggested that they delete that repealing clause in the bicameral conference. But because it's a secret, we don't know who among the congressmen and the senators who are part of the BICAM suggested to delete that provision. So that's a significant effect because imagine in 2024, Semirara Mining Company could have paid 2.4 billion pesos. And now that we have a huge deficit and the government needs money, you have a situation where you cannot collect money from the mining companies because of this action by the members of the BICAM. And you cannot hold them accountable because you don't know who was suggested.
And who, speaking of holding them accountable, paano nangyayari? Kung may tatanggalin sila, do all of the senators and congressmen in the room have to agree? I mean,
Well,
you have to, I mean,
technically-
they are to blame, all of them.
Yes, actually. So people are asking me, so who's responsible? And I think they're all responsible, the members of the BICAM, because they agreed to the removal of the provision. And the thing is, and we witnessed this in the 2025 budget, I think congressmen and senators after the BICAM do not read the documents anymore produced by the BICAM because last year they had an approved BICAM report with blanks, blank sections, no items for the budget. So obviously, these congressmen and senators would just agree to vote and approve documents without reading and reviewing them. So that's what happened in that was a 2017 law. No, I can give more example, but this is how bad it is. Lack of accountability, opaqueness, and so imagine if you have interest groups lobbying, you only need to lobby the members of the BICAM to push for certain provisions, and because I don't know, they do not do a great staff work in terms of reviewing documents that come from the BICAM, then laws like this that favor certain interests are approved and turned into law.
I want to talk about the blank items that was a huge issue with this budget. Is it clear now kung saan nag-appear yung mga blank line items na yan? Doon ba sa enrolled bill na doon ba sa BICAM report na ipinasa sa presidente or within the BICAM hearings?
Yeah, I think before it was approved by the plenary, because after the BICAM, you have to send it back to Senate and the House of Representatives, and they have to approve the version that was finalized by the BICAM. So before it was approved at the plenary level, there are no more blanks. So the question last year was who filled in the blank items in the BICAM report. And I think former Representative Cielo Magno admitted that the staff of Congress filled in those blanks. And that's another legal question. No? Can staff members really complete a bicameral document when the individuals who have mandate in completing, or the institution that has a mandate in completing and finalizing the budget is Congress? So it's something that the staff cannot do. So it's a subject of a petition in the Supreme Court. We filed a petition in the Supreme Court questioning the validity of the 2025 budget because of these things, including the blank items of the BICAM report.
If they were to reconcile the different versions of the Senate and the House, what can they do in that BICAM report? Sabi kasi nga ni Congresswoman Cielo Magno na nagko-compute lang. Yun yung naalala ko kino-compute lang tapos hinabol, di ba? Hindi ba gano'n? Kung iibahin nila kung i-reconcile nila yung dalawang amount na yun, ano lang yung pwede ilagay dun sa final version?
Yeah, then the challenge is actually they have to debate at pag-usapan nila kasi it's not just about adding or subtracting. This is reconciling the numbers. Pag binawasan mo yung isa, magdadagdag ka sa isang sector. Like for example, if you increase agri, then you have to get it somewhere, diba? You have to get it from another agency or another office. Kasi Congress technically cannot increase the budget. They're parang they're given a pie, they can slice the pie kung anong shape ng slices ang gusto nilang ibigay sa iba't ibang opisina, but they cannot increase the size of the pie. So when they're doing deliberation, finalizing the figures, they have to decide na, okay, if we want to add more to the education sector, then they have to get it somewhere. So hindi yan pwedeng staff lang ang magpa-finalize because these are important decisions. Dahil babawasan mo yung mga ibang sector. Plus, there's a very clear provision in that bicameral report that staff work is limited to editorial or typographical errors, not finalizing the figures. Kasi yun yung main function ng BICAM. And that's why, sinasabi natin, if we're talking of genuine open BICAM, then dapat may matrix yan. Ano yung nasa House, ano yung nasa Senate, ito lang yung scope of work nyo as BICAM. Yung reconciling the differences. Kasi ang nagiging problem, sometimes they go beyond just reconciling the differences. There are new insertions that were never discussed at the committee level. And nandun yung transparency and accountability because people can participate at the committee level. We can submit reports, we can give feedback, there can be performance evaluation of various offices. And then, pagdating sa BICAM, wala nang masyadong people participation. Dyan, we are just witnessing what they're doing. But it has to be clear, ano yung scope of work and mandate na gagawin nila. Pero kung libre silang gawin ng kahit ano when they're doing the BICAM, it's very problematic. And then, we don't know who's suggesting what. Wala talagang accountability. So, I appreciate the response of Congress with their commitment to transparency and accountability, but there has to be very concrete actions to make sure that we really have an open BICAM.
Do you have any insight as to why most of these line or blank line items were under agriculture? Meron ka ba nakita ron? Bakit dito yung mga blanks na yan?
Hindi ko alam, pero madami kasing financial assistance din na nanggagaling sa Department of Agriculture sa mga farmers natin because that's one of the very challenging sectors sa economy natin. The farmers are the poorest sectors in our country. So maraming financial assistance dyan, maraming ayuda dyan. When the government shifted our social program to ayuda program, yan yung mga items na normally nagiging bloated sa budget. Maraming magic na nangyayari sa BICAM, maraming nadadagdag. In fact, if you will remember 2024, there was no discussion of the ACAP program, but it was inserted in that BICAM meeting. So things like this, we're talking about people's money, our taxes, then the government, our politicians have to be very, very mindful in terms of using our money. We have to make sure that the money that we are paying government, ito pong tax na binabayad natin, people are really benefiting from it without strings attached. Ang nangyayari kasi ngayon, gagawa sila ng mga programs and yet you need to beg from them for assistance. At yun, for me, that's a very big
patronage.
issue.
Patronage
Yes,
politics
yes.
at
Imagine
play.
PhilHealth. Imagine PhilHealth. They gave PhilHealth zero budget. They keep on getting the budget of PhilHealth. But then they keep on increasing the budget for the medical assistance where you need to go to a congressman or senator for them to pay for your hospital bill. Kung iisipin mo, that came from our taxes. Binayaran na natin yung gobyerno dyan to fix our healthcare system. Bakit ngayon kailangan ko magmakaawa sa politicians for assistance? That's a very, very bad healthcare system and that's what's going on. We are eroding PhilHealth, which should be the institutional approach in providing service in paying for our health services, no? But ngayon, what's happening is you need to ask favors from this politician. So patronage politics talaga.
I love that you feel so strongly about all of these issues that you created a song for yourself. Ano yung tax ng ina mo? I mean,
Yes.
what does that tell us?
Yes. Well, I wrote this song kasi we've been discussing this issue every year. Every time it's budget season, I keep on explaining why the budget is important, why the tax issue is important. And sometimes, a lot of people are not able to relate because we're talking of big numbers. So I think what is important is for us to appreciate ano ba yung value ng dinidiscuss na budget sa Kongreso. Saan ba nanggagaling yan? Na lahat tayo actually nagbabayad ng tax. And if we're paying government our taxes, then we should expect good services from government. And then I think mahilig ka sa kumanta and I also write songs. So I wrote this song to continue public education. But I think entertainment is a good way also of imparting yung knowledge na gusto natin i-share sa kanila.
I'd like to thank you for helping us understand the budget, which many times we are confused and dazed with the numbers. Pero to be able to laymanize the budget really helps a lot and to dissect it, no. So kaya naman pakinggan po natin ang latest song of Cielo Magno. Let's hear Tax ng Ina Mo.
Taksangin mo, bantayan mo, huwag kayang lustayin ng mga politiko, yung perang
Naku, nai-imagine ko ng TikTok viral song yan, no? So gumawa ka na rin ng video mo, gamitin mo yun as music para mag-viral, tapos kukunin ng iba. No?
Yeah.
Pag-viral natin to para maintindihan ng Pilipino kung gaano kalaki ang nakataya dito
This is
sa
basic
usaping ito.
accountability kasi imagine every time kahit 3-in-1 or sardinas lang ang binibili mo, nagbabayad ka na ng tax. So tumataas na yung presyo niyan. So ang pinakatanong na importante pinapasagot natin sa politiko, paano niyo ba ginagasta yung tax natin? Kitang-kita naman natin the quality of our education is so bad. Yung education na lang sana yung makakapag-angat sa buhay ng maraming Pilipino. Kung yung mga 10 years old mo hindi marunong magbasa, anong ibig sabihin? Dun sa tax na binabayad mo, hindi ginagamit ng wasto ng gobyerno. Yung healthcare system natin, trabaho tayo ng trabaho, mapapagod tayo, nag-overtime tayo, nagtapa-part-time pa tayo after ng full-time na trabaho natin hanggang sa magkasakit tayo. But when we get sick, tayo pa rin ang magbabayad ng hospitalisasyon natin unlike in other countries where there's a very good insurance system that will help us cover for our the situation when we get sick, no? Wala yun dito sa atin. And then we see them just giving dole out na wala namang contribution sa mas malawak na economic development. So parang ginigisa talaga tayo sa sarili nating mantika. And that's
Siguro
the theme of this
kasi
song.
wala rin tayong ideya how a good government works.
Yes.
A government that works for its people.
Yeah. So this has to be repeated again and again. People have to be reminded. And that's why I wrote that song.
Well, good luck with your release. We hope it goes viral and educates a lot of Filipinos. But in the meantime, maraming salamat for explaining things to us and breaking it down. We have former Finance Undersecretary Cielo Magno.
Thank you, Gretchen, and good morning to all.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more stories right after a short break. Welcome back to Watching Morning Matters here on One News. Senator Risa Hontiveros vows to take legal action after a key witness in the Quiboloy case publicly recanted his testimony and accused her of coercion and bribery. Here's the report.
Senator Risa Hontiveros plans to file cases after former Senate witness Michael Murillo, also known as Rene, recanted his testimony against Pastor Apollo Quiboloy. In a clip posted on Pagtanggol Valiente, Murillo accused Hontiveros of paying and threatening him to testify against Quiboloy, former President Duterte, and Vice President Sara Duterte. Hontiveros denied the claims and showed screenshots of Murillo initially volunteering as a witness and even asking her office for financial help. According to her, Murillo emailed her office in December 2023 expressing his willingness to testify against Quiboloy. She also said Murillo followed up multiple times after his initial message.
Nasaan dyan ang pinilit? Muli, siya ang una at paulit-ulit na lumapit. Sinungaling na nga nang haharas pa. Michael exposed people who trusted the Senate with their stories. And these are people who were already afraid. Now they are in danger. Again, yan ang talagang kinagagalit ko.
Hontiveros also presented a message from Murillo asking for financial help to buy a laptop. She clarified that her office never gave him money. Just this June, Hontiveros said Murillo told her office he had been kidnapped and was being held in Glory Mountain. Her camp reported the matter to Davao Police. But before action could be taken, Murillo's recantation video went viral. Hontiveros does not yet know who is behind the video, but believes it strengthens the findings of the Senate Committee on Women and Children.
Sinabi for one ni Attorney Torreon na hindi daw sila. So sino hanggang ngayon? Wala pang nagkiklaim ng authorship nitong magaling na video nila ng panay fake news naman. Bakit ayaw nilang aminin o angkinin? Dahil di tulad nga namin na kompleto ang mga resibo, lalo lang lumalakas yung findings at recommendations ng aming investigasyon laban kay Apollo Quiboloy at sa KOJC. At muli, hindi lamang si Michael ang testigo, ni hindi siya ang star witness. At yung iba sa 13 pang witness na iyon ay nag-reach out na sa opisina ko para sabihing handa nilang patunayan. Sabihin muli na sila'y nagtestigo ng malaya at hindi sila binayaran.
Hontiveros plans to file a case with the NBI on Wednesday against those who distributed the video, including Murillo. Her camp is also considering filing criminal charges.
To those behind this, you don't scare us, but you should be scared of the truth.
Justice Secretary Boying Remulla has confirmed his intention to apply as the next ombudsman. In an interview, Remulla said he plans to file his application before the Judicial and Bar Council by Friday, July 4. He believes he still has much to offer in public service and wants to contribute by taking on a new role. Remulla is seeking to succeed Ombudsman Samuel Martires, who will retire on July 27.
Mag-a-apply pa lang ako. I'm submitting my application by Friday, before Friday. Wala. I think that I have a lot to offer there.
Stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back after a quick break. Good morning, I'm Greshanon here at Morning Matters. We talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. Veteran lawyer Lorna Capunan has volunteered to aid the House prosecution team in the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Capunan will assist in the presentation of documentary and testimonial evidence before senator judges. The 73-year-old lawyer has over 4 decades of legal experience. The House's 11-member team is led by Minority Leader Marcelino Libanan and includes lawyers Shel Jokno and Laila De Lima. Meantime, the Senate is expected to convene as an impeachment court on July 29. Let's talk about her involvement in Vice President Duterte's trial. We have on the show this morning veteran lawyer Lorna Capunan. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning to you and to all our viewers and listeners in Morning Matters.
Okay, Attorney, in one of our sister programs, sa Totoo Lang, you clarified that you are not an official private prosecutor yet. So what is your role right now?
Well, there are many of us legal experts who have assisted. We have been consulted by lawyers of the House, and we have given freely and voluntarily our legal advice. So there is no official pronouncement as to who will be the private prosecutors assisting the public prosecutors, but that will come in due time. There is a wealth of volunteers who are willing to assist, because this should be the trial of the century, where there is so much gross injustice being done to the people. Lawyers like me should stand up for justice. And as I have said before, we should be on the right side of history.
Provided a trial does happen, a motion to dismiss was submitted by the Vice President's defense panel under an ad cautelam, or a conditional or cautious reply. What does it mean exactly when these two are bundled together? Yung ad cautelam and yung motion to dismiss.
The motion ad cautelam, the answer ad cautelam, what it means is it is with caution. What is happening here is that VP Sara does not want to submit to the jurisdiction of the impeachment court. And that's why, although she has been required to file an answer, she did file an answer ad cautelam, but ang laman ng answer ay puro grounds for dismissal of the impeachment case. No? So, parang it is a motion to dismiss in disguise as an answer. And she is asking for hearing on the affirmative defenses. Sa affirmative defenses niya, there are no new arguments. They're rehashed arguments. Yung issue ng 1-year ban, yung issue ng crossover, yung issue ng hindi namang continuing body and Senate, and many other legal issues. And that's why we lawyers have stepped in to give legal advice upon consultation by the House lawyers.
How do you expect the Senate impeachment court to tackle this ad cautelam, because the spokesperson has said that this will be the first on the agenda, when the points raised by the Vice President are actually already before the Supreme Court? So paano kaya yung usapin na yun? Magtatagal po ba yun, or could it be resolved in one sitting?
No, we precisely, we do not see where the Senate impeachment court, the Senate President is coming from, because a hearing on a motion to dismiss is not a trial. Ang operative word sa rules of the Senate impeachment court and in the Constitution is to try and decide. Try and decide would mean a full-blown hearing on the evidence. In the order of trial, unang-unang magpe-present ang prosecution to present its evidence. After that, then it will be the defense. Now, there's due process there, because the prosecution's witnesses and the documentary evidence can be subject of cross-examination questions and clarificatory questions by the defense of VP Sara and her team. So when it comes to how should the motion to dismiss be treated, then VP Sara should present it when it is her time to present evidence, because sa pagbasa natin ng kanyang answer ad cautelam, walang evidence doon. Despite the Vice President's public announcement that she is willing to go to trial and to present a bloodbath of evidence. But the answer is this. The motion to dismiss betrays her lack of candor because wala namang sinabing ebidensya sa answer ad cautelam nor sa motion to dismiss. So, where is the evidence that she promised? In fact, lahat nga ng allegations sa articles of impeachment, dininay niya. Ang inadmit lang niya yung personal circumstances niya. No? Um, her name, her address, and her position as vice president. No? I've said before, parang she should deny nga that she's vice president because she does not act as if she's vice president of the republic. She's going around, she's gone 4 times in a month, she's gone abroad, and her mission is to destroy the stability of the administration, to destroy the trust of the people in the justice system. Is that what a vice president should do? That's not her job description, unless she already deems herself as the designated survivor, which she has claimed.
You also mentioned the Vice President Defense Panel appealing for a hearing on affirmative defense. Ano po ibig sabihin nun? Kasi pag ginugal niyo po yung ibig sabihin nun, it would negate the plaintiff's claim even if the defendant's actions are admitted or proven. The defenses are presented in the defendant's answer to the initial complaint. Parang this is tackled especially if they are grounds for dismissal. Kumbaga parang tama po ba yung pagkakaintindi ko na this is the attempt to nullify the whole thing in the first place kahit na guilty o hindi guilty yung defendant?
Ang sinasabi hearing on the affirmative defenses precisely parang continuation ito ng ginawa ng impeachment court nung 19th Congress, no. Pinagdebatihan yung motion to yung dismissal ng impeachment complaint by resolution initiated by Senator Judge Bato. When that didn't fly, nag-amendment. Yung amendment hindi rin napasa. So, ang nangyari dyan, it got whittled down to a resolution of the Senate Impeachment Court requiring 2 things from the House. No? Sa order nila, sabi nila, without dismissing or terminating the impeachment case, it ordered the House, number 1, to certify that all the requirements of the Constitution and the rules and the 1-year ban rule has been complied with. And secondly, that the 20th Congress, which started yesterday, should certify that it will continue with the impeachment complaint. No? So, ang mangyayari dito, ang pino-foresee natin is it will follow the same mode or the same strategy to delay hearing, trial and hearing and presentation of evidence forthwith because pag hearing on the affirmative defenses, uunahin nila, sasabihin nila meron kaming prejudicial issue dito, which is the issue of jurisdiction. So kung they have the required number of votes, yun ang uunahin. Again, tatagal ang discussion dyan. Ano? There will be all sorts of opinions being weighed in. So, madidelay na naman ang trial. And the danger there is if there is enough votes. Kasi sa impeachment case, 2/3 vote ang kailangan to convict or to acquit. Pag mere motion yan, if it is a motion presented to the impeachment court, hindi kailangan ng 2/3. Kailangan lang ang 1/2 plus 1. So, majority vote yun. And by a majority vote, if that is granted by the impeachment court, the dismissal on the grounds of jurisdiction or pendency of the case in the Supreme Court, then it would have achieved its objective of not presenting any evidence in a full-blown trial. We think that that is contrary to the rules of the Senate and contrary to the Constitution. Ang dismissal ng complaint or articles of impeachment even before trial has started.
Well, if this reaches a dismissal, Attorney Bukoy has already said that it would probably lead to a constitutional crisis if this is a petition for certiorari with mandamus is submitted to the Supreme Court. What if the Senate does not follow a Supreme Court order? What's left to do?
No, the Senate, we have three branches of government: no? The judiciary, the legislative, and the executive. And precisely, there is separation of powers to serve as check and balance. Now, when the Constitution says that it is the Senate which is the sole judge in an impeachment court, the Supreme Court cannot intervene. The Supreme Court cannot say, no, you cannot try the impeachment case. The only time that the Supreme Court can intervene under the Senate impeachment rules and under the Constitution is under what we call Rule 65 certiorari, when there is grave abuse of discretion. Pag wala namang grave abuse of discretion ng Senate acting as an impeachment court, hindi naman pwedeng i-dismiss outright or i-grant ng Supreme Court, because that will be intruding into the exclusive power of the Senate impeachment court to try and decide cases. It would be as if the Supreme Court substituted the sole authority of the impeachment court. That should not happen, and knowing that we do have a rule of law, it will not happen that a constitutional crisis will result, because we are a country that follows the rule of law. I am of the belief that the Supreme Court will not interfere and will not substitute its own judgment for the judgment of the impeachment court.
Okay. Finally, you've seen the evidence, am I correct, that the prosecution team has?
Yes, because it is the articles of impeachment tsaka yung mga annexes there, which is evidence, no, evidentiary, is in the Senate website, no, the impeachment website. Also, we have seen almost daily the evidence presented in the House in aid of legislation. Nakabigat ng evidence there. House inquiry on confidential funds, the inquiry on extrajudicial killings, the inquiry on the hiring of an assassin and threats against the President, the First Lady, and the Speaker, the inquiry on aliases and malversation of funds, on bribery, on acts of sedition. All of these have been presented on live TV, and we have assessed that evidence, and it really is very strong. Apart from blanket denial by the Vice President in her answer, motion to dismiss, she has presented zero evidence. So, in the balancing of evidence, I think if the senator judges exercise their political neutrality and are faithful to their oath to follow the Constitution and the applicable rules on impeachment, then I have no doubt that there will be a clear road to conviction.
I guess the question is there anything that we haven't seen yet? Kasi nabanggit niyo po na lahat po ay na-present na sa live TV.
Yes, well, I think that is why dun siguro natatakot ang Vice President. Because pag trial na yan, all the modes of discovery are available. Ano yung modes of discovery? Pwede magpasabina. You can subpoena her bank accounts, no? Because her salary does not reflect her bank accounts. There is a deliberate omission of how much money she has in the bank. That can be subpoenaed. They cannot hide under the bank secrecy laws, because klaro sa batas na pag impeachment case yan, and it is an impeachment court that orders the production of documents, subpoena testificando and subpoena to produce documents, lalabas yan yung bank records ng Vice President acting as such, and also when she was mayor of Davao City and also when she was DepEd Secretary. That ayaw nilang palabas yan. Lalabas yan in a trial. The public prosecutors can also subpoena the names, the real names of these alleged recipients of confidential funds. No? So yung mga listahan yung sinertify ng Statistics Office na wala namang existing birth records yung mga nasa listahan. Because under the COA rules and the circulars, it is imperative that any government agency, and that includes the Vice President's office and the DepEd, should have the names of real people,
Correct.
real recipients of real money in a vault. Pwedeng
Yes.
Maraming pwedeng isubpoena yung mga seditious pronouncements niya. Yung position niya on the West Philippine Sea, no? That's seditious. When she says, even with her hand gesture, that she's going to decapitate the president, that's seditious. The fact she admitted publicly in her own interview, her own live interview, that he had already hired an assassin. Pwedeng isubpoena yan.
Tama
Lahat.
po. Oo. Attorney, it seems that there is a long road ahead and we are excited for the prospect of a trial and to see all of that. But I think there needs to be one thing hurdled first, which is yun nga yung ad cautelam ng Vice President. In the meantime, maraming salamat po, veteran lawyer Lorna Kapunan, joining us today on Morning Matters. Maraming salamat.
Maraming din salamat sa iyo.
And now for the other side of things, we have Senate Impeachment Court spokesperson Attorney Reggie Tonggol here to break down the latest on Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment case. Magandang umaga sa inyo, Attorney.
Magandang umaga, Gretchen, and to all your televiewers.
Kay Attorney, kayo po ang nagsabi na this will be first on the agenda, yung answer ad cautelam ng Vice Presidente. How is that conversation going to be? Magtatagal po ba yan? Because these are constitutional issues brought forth by the defense panel.
The answer ad cautelam raises jurisdictional issues wherein it is consistent with a petition for certiorari filed by the Vice President Duterte. So I think the impeachment court would need to hurdle that issue first before the presentation of evidence. Because usually po sa mga trial courts, kapag nagpresenta ng mga ganyang question, ay inuuna po yan. Dahil na rin po kung nag-order po ang isang korte, at hindi po yun ay valido at wala pong jurisdiction yung isang korte, then lahat po ng action ng korte na yun ay may invalidate. So ito po ay importanteng topic na kailangan pagdesisyon na ng impeachment court.
Okay. Kayo na po nagsabi no, na kung kayo si Vice Presidente at yung defense panel niya, mag-file kayo ng motion to dismiss. At nabanggit nyo rin ho na ito kasi yung usual na ginagawa no, na pathway. Can you give us more detail into that? I mean, why did you think that this was the best path for the Vice President?
Well, I am talking in a hypothetical scenario, and as a 19-year litigation lawyer, I haven't stopped attending court cases and criminal cases at that. Usually, any lawyer worth his salt would have exhausted all the remedies available to him and his client to represent his client fully. And one of the modes or remedies that is available for any lawyer is to file a motion to quash if it is a criminal case, or a motion to dismiss if it is a civil case. So it was just but a natural consequence of the actions of the defense for one to be able to conclude that that is the next step that they will take. So hindi po yun pag-aabogado sa isang panig, ngunit pag-explain lamang po sa ating sambayanan na ito po yung nangyayaring mga taktika pagdating po sa trial. At kapag sinabi po na nag-ad cautelam ka, ang susunod na po dyan na gagawin ng isang defense lawyer ay magpa-file either ng answer ad cautelam katulad ng nakita natin o kaya naman po motion to dismiss. So, ang motion to dismiss po, usually yung mga grounds na yon ay ipinasok na doon sa answer ad cautelam. Kaya po ad cautelam.
Oo. And then, how long do we expect that conversation to go? Kasi yun nga po, no? Yun nga yung nabanggit po ninyo na ito ay jurisdictional in nature. Hindi po ba, could the impeachment case be halted from that point if there is a majority vote among senators? Would they have to vote on the ad cautelam? And the motion to dismiss.
Yes, Gretchen, as part of the Senate impeachment rules, inadapt din ng impeachment court at nakalagay sa Senate impeachment rules na nag-a-apply supportorily yung Senate rules or Senate parliamentary rules. So kung paano po na nagdedesisyon usually ang Senado sa mga motion during their legislative sessions, ganun din po yung i-adapt na proseso ng pagtatanong at pagmo-motion at pagsisekond po ng any party o ng mga senador po during the impeachment court sessions. So dahil wala naman po nakalagay sa Senate impeachment court at kahit sa konstitusyon na kapag mga motion ay or mga orders ay kailangan ng 2/3 vote, then ang mag-a-apply po ay yung Senate rules on their legislative sessions po.
Okay, so they would have to have a majority vote to be able to decide on that motion. Bottom line. Yes.
Tama po.
Okay. You talked about, one of the remedies being the motion to dismiss or quash, ano? Pero hindi po ba sa Constitution, wala rin yung word na yon na dismiss? Ayun nga yung argument nung iba, na there needs to be a trial held. And if this is just dismissed, then it would be unconstitutional.
Tama rin kayo dyan, Gretchen. That position is taken by another school of thought. Another position is that the jurisdictional issues must first be settled on the onset. So yan po yung hihintayin natin na pagdedebatehan na naman ng ating mga senator judges pag-reconvene po. So maaring it can go both way, or it can go either way kung paano po yun ay masasaksihan po natin ano yung mga legal basis po ng bawat school of thought sa deliberations ng ating senator judges. So tama rin kayo at saka tama rin yung sinasabi ng mga kritiko na wala pong motion to dismiss doon. Sila naman po sinasabi nila na it is an inherent power of the court at nakalagay rin dun sa inadapt na Rule 9 Section 1 ng Rules of Court na the court can motu proprio dismiss the complaint or the case if there is a lack of jurisdiction. So yun naman yung pinagbabasihan ng another school of thought.
Okay, sabi ni Attorney Lorna Kapunan, sana ito yung motion to dismiss ay within the context of a trial already. That hindi nga daw tama na nasa labas siya ng trial. Dapat muna mangyari yung trial kung saan ipinesenta yung evidence at tinalakay itong motion to dismiss. What would you have to say to that?
Tama rin yung ganong school of thought, no? Siyempre sa ngayon, this is a first case of first impression, so we have to try those two schools of thought in the impeachment court. Yung mga nagsasabi na ganon, sabi naman nila na parang nakalagay try and decide lang yan. So pwedeng ipagpaliban yung question on dismissal or jurisdiction kapag matapos na magpresenta yung magkabilang panig ng kanilang mga ebidensya at bago magkaroon ng desisyon doon sa pag-acquit o pag-convict ay kailangan mo ng desisyonan yung jurisdictional issue na yon. So may mga nagsasabi rin na gano'n na school of thought. So as of now, hindi natin alam how the deliberations will go and how the voting will go. Kaya lahat po tayo, yan ang ating susubaybayan at pag-aaralan.
Okay. Maraming salamat. Magsisimula ito, syempre, on July 29. We don't have a lot of time for now, but we hope to have you back again to discuss other legal matters. But in the meantime, maraming salamat. We have Senate Impeachment Court spokesperson, Attorney Reggie Tonggol.
Thank you, Gretchen.
And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. We are One News, all sides, all the time.